the Badass Dad Pod, where we're going after our best lives no matter what age we are. My name is Ryan Dunn. I'm your lawful good podmaster, a level 4 gym warrior, level 4 relationship ranger, glutton of protein, seeker of the mighty tea, completer of 6 pull-ups, quester of the holy dunk, and I have a special episode for you. I'm a member of several online podcaster support groups. It's where we get together to talk about things like gear, and we repeatedly ask one another how we get more people to listen to our podcasts. Sometimes we swap guest recommendations, and, again, we ask one another how we get more listeners to our podcasts. It's a never-ending quest. Anyways, in one of these support groups, we shared pictures of our recording rigs. Now, mine is notable for its simplicity and utter lack of glamour. Like, most of my episodes come out of a closet, literally. So you can imagine how cool I found it when another podcaster shared his mobile rig that he records with in the inside of his RV, in which he and his wife live and work full time. I decided that was a human being I would really enjoy talking to. So he and I did some talking and found that we have a good bit in common, and that there was an awful lot that would be of benefit for the audience of this here podcast to hear as well. This man's name is Tim Winders. Tim hosts the Seek, Go, Create podcast, which he normally records on his mobile rig in the RV home. And what's more, you thought I had a lot of titles. Tim's a minister, husband, father, coach, consultant, speaker, writer, investor, creator. He's helping organizations and people grow to reach their God-inspired potential, and I'd like to reach that potential too. And I'm so glad I got to talk to Tim about that and get his recommendations on living an alternative lifestyle that's unplugged from the rat race and how to find sure footing when making bold moves into a lifestyle change like that. And really just, get some sound experiential advice for all of us who are looking to make some lifestyle shifts for our own well-being. Tim Winders, he's fun to talk to, fun to listen to, and I invite you to listen for ways he discerned what to change in his life and how, as we talked about his journey to becoming a full-time nomad. So, Tim, you've taken to the RV life kind of full time. Like, what does a typical day for Tim Winders look like?
Man, I'm not sure that there are typical days in the RV life, Ryan.
What is
a typical day in the world we live in right now?
Yeah. I suppose that we do need to kind of timestamp this and saying like, hey, it's early July 2020. And yeah, there are some COVID restrictions going on. So.
Well, so I'll back up and say what a usual typical day will be in the day that we're hopeful to get back to. And
right.
And I'll say there's kind of a qualifier. There's a work day or a travel day. So let me just say work day.
Yeah.
Is I get our RV is a 39-foot RV. So my commute is usually from the back where our bed is to the front where my office is. And typical day is I wake up before my feet hit the floor. I pop in an AirPod Pro, put on a podcast like yours or someone else's. And during my commute, which stops by the restroom to take care of a few items, and then the coffee pot to take care of a few items, and then on the way to the office, then that is really the start of my day. And usually my wife and I, we're in, 400 square feet together. So it's tight quarters, but we've been together over 30 years. So we're used to it. Ryan, we'll spend a little time, we do a little Bible study, a little reading ourselves and catching up on some news and maybe a little meditation and things. And then we dive into whatever our work is. Sure. I'm on business calls a good portion of the day, video calls, and have podcasts. So all of that's the day. And then hopefully we break and have fun wherever we're at before the day's over.
Cool. Well, where might you be parked? Like, where are some of the reasonable places where you can kind of set up for quite a while when you're in the RV?
Typically, especially early on, we were in RV parks where we can plug in, get electricity. We could get a little bit of water. We could hook up our sewer items, which you have to take care of in an RV. And then also make sure we could get some internet and Wi-Fi and And we've done a lot. I tell you what, over the last 18 months, we've done the entrance of Zion National Park.
Nice.
For a few months. We've done right at Death Valley National Park, which is just over the line in Nevada where we stayed. We did Southern California in the desert. But I tell you, the coolest for us, Ryan, was we spent the entire coast, the entire summer, last summer, on the coast of Oregon, all up and down the coast. And there were times when we were 10 feet from the bay there on Coos Bay, just the water lapping and coming and going. So that might give you a little glimpse of how we spend our time.
So when you're free roaming like that, do you have a set agenda in mind? Like, hey, we're going to go to this spot in Oregon. We're going to stay there for about 3 or 4 days. Then it's on to this point. Or is it kind of like you get there, like, hey, we hang out for a while, and then when you feel like it's time to move on, then it's like, hey, where to next?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually quite debated in RV world, which let me just say there's quite the culture of people that do what we do. You know, a lot of people hear it and go, oh, that'd be awesome. There are more people out there than you might imagine. There are people that they leave a site, you know, wherever they are, and they drive just to go wherever they can go and stop and do their thing and then get up in the next morning and do it again. That's not really the way we operate.
Okay.
My wife and I are planners. I mean, I'm an industrial engineer from Georgia Tech, so I like to know what's going on. She's an operations person. She likes to know what's going on. So we actually will sit down when we can and map out where we're going, plan a strategy. I don't like to drive massive amounts in a day if possible. We like to stop at a winery or something like that just to enjoy something local while we're on the road. But we'll usually get places and stay anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months just to get acclimated, hang out, and really learn the area and see if it's something that might nourish our soul that we might want to visit again in the future.
Yeah. So that's cool. Do you find in traveling in that way where you're actually staying in a place for a week at a time, do you find that a more enriching experience than maybe what most of us are accustomed to in our week-long vacations where it's like, you know, we have one day to hit this spot, one day to hit the next spot?
It is. And there's a few things we're learning about ourselves because, you know, anytime we stretch ourselves and attempt to experience something new, if we're really astute, we start learning some good and some bad about ourselves. And some things we've learned, Ryan, my wife and I, my wife's name is Glory, is number one, we're not good tourists. We don't do tourist stuff well. We love going to local restaurants. We love kind of resting, relaxing. We love kind of enjoying an area. We don't like to rush around. And we've done that in the past. I mean, we've got grown children, and so we understand what that's like. We don't do that well. Another thing that we realize, Ryan, is that as much as we love people, we don't necessarily like crowds. So we kind of were living a socially distanced life before it was cool. And, you know, we're in our own bed and all of that. But we actually like smaller areas as opposed to big cities. We've been big cities, and we both grew up in the Atlanta metro area. So, you know, we understand that. But we love places like, you know, not far from you, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah.
We love places like Bend, Oregon, or the coast of Oregon, or small town California versus LA or the Bay Area. And we just do better in those areas. That's what we've learned we like and we enjoy.
Now that you're doing this and have been doing this for a while, how long have you been on the road like this?
We moved into our RV January 1st, 2019.
Okay.
We've actually been traveling and consider ourselves nomads since 2013, almost 7 years ago.
Yeah, considerable amount of time. So having gone from maybe the more sedentary life where you were working to being on the road and working, is there a sense of feeling like you're on a perpetual vacation, or is there something refreshing about showing up to these new spots, even when you're doing, you know, your same Monday through Friday type work?
That's really interesting. We have these discussions. There are some places that we go that if there are too many people around us that are in that, we'll call it heavy duty vacation mode. And I'll just say it like this. They're partying. They've got their ATVs. They're up late at night.
Yeah.
You know, that type thing. Then it really, it it doesn't mesh well with our lifestyle. There are a number of people that do what we do. They're full time. They travel around. And so we found that it really helps when we are around people, more people that are like that versus people that are in the perpetual vacation mode. So for us, because we've always been business owners, we've always been entrepreneurs, we've always done our own thing, we really don't have difficulty doing our work when we need to do our work. The bigger difficulty we have is taking time off when it's time to take time off.
Okay.
Knocking off at 5, 6, 7 or something in the evening, maybe enjoying a cocktail, maybe enjoying some time together, grilling out and enjoying wherever we are. And so that's probably a tougher thing for us. And we get a lot of work done, and we've got podcasts. I just finished a novel, and my wife works, and she worked for a company out of the Bay Area for years. And so we get stuff done. Our challenge is doing the vacation thing and stopping so that we can relax and enjoy.
So it sounds like you love what you're doing. Like, can you describe the nature of your work for us?
Yeah, it's kind of a few facets. I actually consider myself a business coach. Okay. I work with leaders or heads of organizations, both in the for-profit and nonprofit area. And I just help them and their leadership team achieve and accomplish whatever they're trying to accomplish. You know, what I really say is what I do is I reach down inside people or organizations, and I pull out the potential that was there when they were created or birthed, or that God put there. That's really what I do. And what that looks like logistically is I do a lot of Zoom calls. I do a lot of video calls. I do a lot of, I just had a client.
Before Zoom was cool, right? Yeah.
But I was doing Zoom, man, for years because I like connecting with people. I like we were talking about earlier, I like seeing and looking in their eyes and making sure I'm not putting them to sleep and things like that. So yeah, I do Zoom calls, and then also have a podcast that similar to what we're doing right here. I do, 1, 2, sometimes 3 interviews per week, and that's helpful to be on Zoom and recording. And then also I've been building in some creative time early in the day to finish up a novel and continue writing. And so I've been attempting to write is a way that I say it.
Right.
So those are a few of my tasks, and do a few other things, but that'll give you a little flavor of how I function and operate.
Excellent. Hey, when can we expect to see the novel?
The novel will be released. It's finished editing. I've got final transcript. I believe it's final transcript now. And I'm expecting to see it September to early October of 2020, the year that we're in.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, hey, you said that you're attempting to write, but if you're actually writing, like, that makes you a writer. You are a writer. You're doing it. So going back to around 2013, or maybe even just trying to recall back to this past year in when you moved into the RV full time, what prompted you to kind of pull up roots and move into this lifestyle?
Well, anytime someone makes what I call a big change or adjustment in their life, Ryan, as a coach, I've always studied this. And what typically happens, there's one of two things that happen when people make significant change in their lives. Number one, they make a focused, concerted effort to make a change, because you don't make changes like that just, let's wake up one morning and move into an RV. Mm-hmm. Or there's a catalytic event that forces change, health issues, financial. And for us, it was financial, truthfully. We had multiple companies valued at 7 figures plus in 2008, lived in a 6,000 square foot home in a resort community, 117 holes of golf, and one of our neighbors was a Ritz-Carlton. And Ryan, all of those companies were real estate related. And by 2013, to shorten the story, we were homeless, living in a Honda van. And so it was fairly significant. Now, we have been more than restored financially. We are in better shape than we've ever been. We aren't spending much, which is actually, there's a lot of lessons there that I think you teach on about financial, being a good financial steward and things.
Learning.
And so, yeah. And so part of what we did was we actually started traveling and spent some time in Australia, New Zealand in 13, 14, and then some time in Colorado, all over the U.S. In 14, 15, 16. And then we went to a Bible school for a couple years up in the mountains of Colorado at about 9,000 feet. And when we finished up, my wife and I said, you know what, we want to travel again. We were there for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And we said, what does that look like? And we said, gosh, maybe we should get an RV. And I'm like going, I can't even spell RV. How are we going to get an RV? So 60 days later, we had our RV that we now named Theo. We had gutted him, painted everything, ripped out all the carpet, made it our own. And so that's what we started traveling in, at the end of 18, early part of 2019.
All right. So you didn't buy fresh. There was a renovation project involved in this.
Yeah, we bought a 2006. It's a 39-foot Class A for those that know about it. Our decision was based on the fact that we didn't have a big old honker pickup truck, which is kind of interesting being from Georgia. A lot of people from Georgia would typically have a big old pickup truck. We just had a little sport SUV, and we said, let's try to get into this. We kind of play a game now. What can we do to get into a different lifestyle with as small of a capital outlay as we can? And for us, instead of buying a $80,000 truck and another $60,000 fifth wheel type, trailer, we bought a 2006 Class A that had 21,000 miles on it. Let me just tell you, we spent much less for it, paid cash, than most people spend on a compact passenger car.
So prior to kind of the business stuff falling out, had this lifestyle been something that you had considered, like even in a daydream? Had you been thinking like, oh, won't it be nice someday when I have the option to do this? Or was it really after the financial bottom fell out that you were like, well, we got to change on something, and this seems to be the best way to do it?
Well, one thing that happens to everyone is that we're all in process. There's a process that we're going through in life, and we are kind of a sum total of all of those things. And my wife and I always have considered ourselves kind of contrarian thinkers, trying to do things the opposite of the masses. But truthfully, probably up until 2008, we did things pretty much like everyone else. We were always chasing after the bigger house and the stuff and all of those traps, I call them now. And so when that occurred, we were forced to visit, all that we were thinking. And so we love to travel, I guess might be the answer to your question.
Okay. But
we traveled traditionally. We would get on a plane and we would travel, and we would go to a resort or a vacation place or hotel or whatever, and we would stay for a week. And like you asked at the beginning, we would probably scoot around like wild, trying to get everything done so that we could check it all off our list, so that we felt like we got our money's worth when we got back home.
Yeah.
And then we'd be exhausted.
Right.
So maybe it's a little bit of maturity. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is, but we just have gotten to a place where that's not really the way we wanted to do things. And so we continue embracing doing things differently.
So in talking about doing things differently, how do you get yourself to the point to actually act on that renegade spirit, so to speak? Like when you started out to say like, hey, we're going to live in RV, was there a voice in your mind that was saying like, people just don't do that, Tim? You need to haul back on that. Like, sounds fun, but it's not really something that you would do. Was that happening with you? And how did you move past it?
I think the muscle was a little bit stretched leading up to it. I don't think there was like a day that when my wife walked out, we actually spent a lot of time in prayer ourselves, and she was kind of praying. She goes, I think God wants us to get an RV. And I'm going, that better be God, because I don't know if we're supposed to get an RV. And so, Ryan, we really have to back up to like 2013 when we left the big home that we lived in and started traveling. And when we did that, we actually did house sitting. This is something you may not have even been aware of, but we traveled all over the world watching other people's homes because we were homeless. I mean, I have to remind you that we were homeless at the time. Now, we use the word nomad because it just sounds better.
Okay.
But we were homeless. We went from 6,000 square foot home to Honda van.
Yeah.
But, we started tapping into this world where you could watch other people's homes. Usually there were pets involved, and they would hand you the keys, let you do whatever with what was ever in the refrigerator, maybe even use their vehicle. and they would leave and you would take care of their home and their pets and anything else while they were gone. And so we did that. We did that all over Australia. We did it in New Zealand. The reason I bring it up when you ask that question, Ryan, is that it was stretching the muscle for us to not be surprised by whatever that next thing might be. Because just me telling you that we lived in other people's houses probably gets the wheels turning, because had you told me that in 2012, I would have said, that makes sense. That doesn't make any sense. No one would ever do anything like that. But yet we did that. In fact, we continue to do that at times today because people will still contact us. So, we were able to hang out on the South Island of New Zealand for 3 months watching an outdoor cat.
That's a rough job. It's herding a cat, right?
It kind of was. But anyway, I'm a little bit more of a dog person than cat. I don't know if that alienates people or anything like that.
I'd hear. Well, speaking as a coach, how do you stretch that comfort muscle then? Are there some exercises that you recommend that get people, I guess, more in a position of being able to say yes to some of the things that they're dreaming of doing?
There's something that I say quite a bit that goes something like, thou shalt not fool thyself. I don't know if it's in the Bible or not. I know you've got a biblical background. It's probably there somewhere, but it's probably not worded that way. That might be like the first book of Tim, not Timothy, the first book of Tim. But anyway, and so thou shalt not fool thyself. And so the foundation of that, Ryan, is that we have to have some self-awareness about what are strengths, what are weaknesses, what are our comfort zones, and what are some things that might stretch and push us. I would guess, and I think I know I've heard it on your podcast, that you talk about health and exercise.
Yep.
Well, the way someone develops themselves from a health standpoint is, you do new foods, you try new foods, you try new diets, and you do the same thing with exercise. Well, really, we push people to do that in life or their business or their organization or personally. And so I encourage people, like I'll give you a simple example from someone who owns a small business. Typically, if someone owns a business, the business is probably running them a good bit the first few years. If I'm working with that leader, one of the first things I attempt to do is something that's extremely uncomfortable for most, and that is to step away for 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that, and let the business run itself. Now, we put some things in place to make sure it does that. And then if we do that, then we try to step away for a week and 2 weeks. And so it's really just attempting to make ourselves uncomfortable so that we could then get comfortable with that was once uncomfortable. And it could be a lot of different things, but that's just one example that might be a little practical and that people might be able to understand.
While we're on the ideas of exercises and steps, if somebody comes to you saying, hey, Tim, like, how do I move into the nomad lifestyle? What might be some first steps to take there?
The first thing I would say is test to see what it is you might enjoy. Like, I know that you live up in the Tennessee area. And one of the things I encourage people to do, especially in the United States, but if you're in other parts of the world, you could kind of do the same thing. I know you probably have listeners all over. And that is to start exploring the area around where you live. And one of the things I really encourage people to do, and maybe this will make sense, is don't fly, drive. Now, the interesting thing is the time we're in now, everybody's going to be trying to drive, which is good. But I'll tell you, man, the national parks in the United States of America, if you haven't been to the one that's closest to you, shame on you. Not just you, but I'm talking about your listener. You need to go. I was up in the North Georgia mountains this last weekend visiting friends, and you need to go down to the Great Smokies. You need to scoot over to Shenandoah and those places and spend a long weekend to get away, maybe leave a device behind. If you've got kids and you're wanting to be the dad you need to be, take them and do something different with them. And then just kind of look at it as a leader. If you're, father, like I know your audience typically is, say, hey, let me evaluate. Did we do well? How did we do? Was that something we all enjoyed? Did everybody stretch themselves? And if so, do it again, but stretch again. do something that you haven't done. Get in the car and drive, do cool stuff, have conversation. We really, and the cool thing is, Ryan, we're in a society right now that everyone almost has the opportunity to do a do-over because of what's going on in the world. This is a great time to just decide to do things differently than you were doing them in February of 2020. And, travel differently. A lot of people are able to work from home. You can possibly get your work done anywhere you go. Drive somewhere, get your work done on a Friday, and then you'll be somewhere else to hang out over the weekend. So my first thing to do is just test it. I don't know that I like people doing like the total dive. Like if you were to say, hey man, we're going to buy an RV next weekend, we're going to get rid of all of our stuff and we're going to move in, I would say, that's awesome. But I do like to do a test. I'm an engineer by training, so I like to test things a little bit too,
So having tested this out quite a bit now that you've been doing it for several years, are there like newbie mistakes that you've identified looking back that maybe you could let somebody else know, like, hey, definitely avoid this particular pitfall or this course of action?
Yeah, the biggest one I would say is going back to something you asked about earlier. Don't try to see everything and do everything because you'll wear yourself out. Because I remember this vividly, Ryan. We were on the Columbia River north of Portland up in Washington State. And our RV was parked and my office is in the passenger seat. And I'd be looking down at the Columbia and these big ships going by and all. It was awesome. And I remember that there would be some nice big RVs that would pull in right in front of us. And they would pull in about 4:00 in the afternoon. They would pull in, they would unhook their car they were towing and do all their stuff and get ready. And, an hour later, they would be set up with the grill. And I would kind of say to my wife, I said, these people look like they're going to stick around for a little while. And they would grill out, sit there, watch the sunset, which is great. That's great that they were doing that. And then I would do my commute to the office that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. Open up the curtain in the morning and they would be gone.
And they're out. Wow.
They're out of there, man. They would be like every night hitting, and maybe they weren't. But so the biggest newbie mistake is go somewhere, find a spot and sit and let that whole relax and chill mindset creep over you. Now, I will say I'm in my mid 50s. So there's probably a lot of people that are younger going, no, we got to go, man. And hustle. And don't do that, man. You're going to wear yourself out. I felt this early on in our RV lifestyle. I mean, there's a lot going on with RVs, and I was driving and I was wanting to get to the next spot and I was getting grouchy. And I really did hear this voice say, enjoy the journey, enjoy the journey, instead of looking at that destination and thinking that everything was going to be awesome when you get to that destination. Enjoy the journey. And that's what we all need to be doing probably all the time. But if you're going to do some type of lifestyle like this, man, enjoy every step along the way.
I want to touch on that. What were you doing when you heard that voice? Did you just hear it, or were you cultivating like a mindfulness practice?
All right. So good story here. I'm kind of I'm a praying guy, and I've spent some time in Bible school. And Ryan, I'll give you the exact scenario. We moved into the RV in late December 2018 when we were at 9,000 feet in a little town called Woodland Park, Colorado. And it was 5 below zero. And anyone that knows anything about these RVs knows that the ideal temperature is like 55, 75. Because it's not too cold, not too hot. You don't have to, have things freezing up on you and boiling over, whatever. So, because everything you have, your tanks that hold the bad stuff, your water, that's your clean water, electricity, all that stuff has, at least the liquid part, can freeze. And so we were going from Colorado, and then we were going to be driving down through New Mexico, Arizona to loop around to Zion National Park, which is our first destination. And man, I was white knuckling the wheels. I was gripping them. And we had a little bit of snow on the ground, which when you've got 40 feet behind you, isn't really exciting necessarily. And I was just like, we got to get there. We got to get there. Clenched teeth almost. And so I was just speaking to the Lord, saying, Lord, man, there's just too much going on here. What's going on? And literally I heard that peaceful, calm voice say, enjoy the journey. And it was about that time we pulled into a place down in Arizona that they just had record amounts of snow. They never had snow. They hadn't had snow like that since 1987. There's 6 inches of snow on the ground. And I'm just thinking to myself, there is nothing that I can do about any of this.
Yeah.
I just need to embrace it. And you know what? That message might be timely for the times we're in right now.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we can't control. We just need to embrace and enjoy what's going on around us right now and just make the most of it and smile and live with some joy.
Yeah. So even when the snow is piled up, you're white knuckled. Yeah. To take a moment and enjoy the journey for what it is. That kind of precludes my last question for you, which was, but we'll go for it anyway. Would you say that you're self-employed now, correct? So, your paycheck is dependent upon what you do. Nobody else is signing that for you. Even in light of that, would you say that you are more chill now than you were like 15 years ago?
I am absolutely more, there's a word I use, at peace now than I was 15 years ago. I still have the type A, or depending on the personality profile, high D and, personality style, but I build in time to think. I build in time that has nothing. It sounds kind of weird that you schedule nothing time, but in the world we're in, there's so much coming at us. There's so many distractions. And to me, the biggest tragedy that we have right now is that many of us in first world culture, we don't allow our minds to really work. And I think we were really designed to be creative. And that's really the title of our podcast is Seek, Go, Create. And I think we're designed to be creative, but we can't be creative unless we let those creative juices get nurtured and meditate and ponder, whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of different things we can call it, Ryan. And listen, I know the guy listening's got family and has kids and everything going on right now, but the best thing, in my opinion, that he can do for his family is show them how to live at peace and at rest, because the biggest challenge that we have culturally is busyness, is being consumed by all the stuff to do when we really need to pause, relax, and chill. So in answer to your question, yes, I'm much better. Am I there yet? No, but I'm a work in progress. Right. I'm enjoying the journey. And I do enjoy just kind of chilling and being more relaxed and at peace now.
So you're self-employed, you're on the road, and yet you're more relaxed and at peace.
We're relaxed and at peace, and I'm writing. I've got a lot of projects and a lot going on. But when I hit my head at night, I go to sleep very quickly.
No doubt. Oh. Well, I think that is the spot to leave it, Tim. Those are some good thoughts to hit the road with, proverbially and I guess literally as well. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks for sharing your journey with us. And hey, if folks want to learn more about what you're doing and catch up with some of the other ideas that you're bouncing about, where's a good place to find you online?
Well, probably the best place to really connect with us is on our podcast at Seek, Go, Create. And it's just those 3 words, Seek, Go, Create, SEEK. Some people kind of spell it weird at times, but Seek, Go, Create. And they can find us at seekgocreate.com or all the socials. We are Seek, Go, Create, but definitely wherever you listen to podcasts, if they're listening right now, they could go do a search on us and join us there. And then people can just keep up to date with me there, because we talk about business. We're in the entrepreneur space, some spiritual, and our travels and other projects that we've got going on. So that's where I'd recommend people go.
Excellent. We'll link that up in the show notes on thebadpod.com as well. So Tim, thanks once again.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, Ryan. Great time.
So glad to have had the opportunity to meet and connect with Tim. I'm inspired. Hope you're inspired to do something too. So let's not belabor this outro. May the inspiration to leave a rating and review move you to go do so now. Thanks to Tim and IOLN for providing the background music. Check out more episodes on thebadpod.com. If you liked this one, you might like my talk with Robert Bell about reclaiming your creativity, or my solo episode on tricking self-doubt. My name is Ryan Dunn. You've been awesome. Next episode in 2 weeks, but new content is on the website every week. If not every few days. I've been on a tear lately. Okay, bye.